while she was being abused by Jeffrey Epstein, he brought her to either New York or New Jersey. And then in that instance, that is where she met Donald Trump. She says in her testimony, she said that Trump came into the room and he asked everyone to leave the room and said something to the effect of, "Let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be." Now, there was an entire paragraph, Del, that comes after what we just highlighted there, but we are choosing not to show that on television because it is incredibly graphic detail and it's allegations of forced sex with a minor. Again, these are not corroborated allegations, but they were made in multiple instances and the same story was repeated by the same victim over and over.
One of the biggest talking points in conservative media has been Jeffrey Epstein. You've heard it from every corner of the internet. Release the files. Expose the elites. Show the client list. And to be fair, that demand isn't unreasonable. Epstein ran one of the most disturbing trafficking operations in modern history. The public deserves transparency. But now the new documents have been released. Something interesting is happening. And the reaction from some of the loudest voices on the right has been strangely quiet. Earlier this week, the US Department of Justice released previously missing FBI interview summaries from 2019 related to the Epstein investigation. In those documents, a woman told the FBI that she had been trafficked by Epstein as a teenager. According to the FBI interview summaries, she claimed that Epstein flew her to a high-rise apartment in New York or New Jersey in the 1980s and introduced her to Donald Trump. She alleged that Trump forced her to perform oral sex and assaulted her after she resisted. Now let's be absolutely clear about something important. These are allegations recorded in FBI interview summaries. They are not proven in court. And the Department of Justice itself described them as uncorroborated. No charges were filed. That distinction matters. But here's the question that deserves to be asked. If conservative commentators have spent years demanding that Epstein's connections to powerful figures be investigated, then shouldn't that standard apply to everyone, even Donald Trump? Because for years, Trump's relationship with Epstein has been publicly documented. There are photos of them together. Trump once described Epstein as a terrific guy. They socialized in the same elite circles in New York and Florida. Trump did later distance himself from Epstein and even reportedly banned him from Mar-a-Lago after an incident involving a young woman. But the association has always been part of the Epstein story. And that's why these newly released allegations matter. Not because they automatically prove guilt, but because they raise serious questions that deserve scrutiny. The same scrutiny that conservative media has demanded for everyone else. Yet when the allegation touches Trump, many of the loudest voices suddenly seem unsure whether the topic is worth discussing. The same influencers who spend years saying, "Release everything," now face a moment of truth. Will they examine the documents with the same intensity they've applied to other political figures? Or will this become one of those stories that quietly disappears because it's politically inconvenient? They've built empires regurgitating slop to docile pigs. Donate. Buy my book. Same immigration rants on loop because it pays. Look at Tommy Robinson. Supporters fund his designer Stone Island gear, luxury holidays in Cyprus villas, and Bahamas resorts. Even that $1 million Bedfordshire pad with the gym upgrade. All while he pops up every few months, drops a few questionable lines, begs for more cash, and vanishes again. The grifter usually has two paths. First, they are compromised, like the Toby Robinsons, Nigel Farages, Ben Shapiro's, Andrew Tate's. They don't reach that point by accident. Millions of followers, endless income flow, media representation. They all follow a script, push a divisive narrative, tell people what they want to hear, but offer no real solutions, distracting the masses. I agree with some of what they say, but it's all orchestrated. The second path, the ones who speak their minds more freely, but are still driven by revenue and crowd approval. Asmongold, Carl Benjamin, Stephen Crowder. They've built empires not by controversy, but by authenticity. If they get media attention, it's for character assassination and undercover hit pieces. Crowder got tangled in controversy with an ex-girlfriend he was allegedly abusive toward. They cut him out of the echo chamber. More personal smear than Tate's widely reported violence, which got outlets justifying or piling on. Plus, Piers Morgan spots labelling him right-wing. Others just get buried and tarnished. But I respect them more. But self-preservation ranks high. And calling out Trump, and the followers flee. Your influence tanks, revenue dries. It's easier to paint lefties with a broad brush, to hammer the swamp when it's safe. But your own elite kin in FBI files? Laugh it off or ignore it. Pivot back to borders. Money changes people. They sacrifice less, organize less. Their purpose morphs into preserving the cash flow. You can't trust anyone with little skin in the game. They've sheltered themselves from the madness. As they get bigger, that income stream becomes their real threat, not the issues they once bled for. Accountability cannot be selective. If someone believes Epstein's network must be exposed, that principle can't suddenly change depending on who appears in the documents. Because the moment accountability becomes tribal, the search for truth stops being about justice and starts being about protecting your side. Whether you support Trump or oppose him, the standard should be simple. Allegations involving powerful people deserve investigation. Evidence deserves scrutiny. And no one, left or right, should be above that standard. If the demand was always to expose the truth about Epstein, then the only honest response now is to follow the evidence wherever it leads, even if it leads somewhere uncomfortable.